to the top of
Sister, we dey talk for the KKY movement. We come for full salute by above. They do it for me. Kaila, no one there. They do it for me. Look at them, no one there. They do it for me. Come on, no one there. They do it for me. Bongwali, no one there. They do it for me. Gambia, no one there. They do it for me. Banadugu, no one there. They do it for me. Botloko, no one there.
Thank you very much. I know you're used to me being in the middle of the hall. I am modifying my style a little bit, but I do know that tomorrow, please have a seat, please have a seat. I know that tomorrow I have a town hall as well. Our distinguished masters and of ceremony, or master and madam of ceremony, members of the high table, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for showing up for this event. Thank you to the KKYM DMV for organizing this event and inviting Philo and myself. The night is far gone, and so I will not give you the pain of listening to all of what I had written to talk about today. I will use it as talking points instead. But let me thank all of you for coming. I was here 2 months ago, had a town hall with you here in Washington, D.C. Had the opportunity to go to Atlanta as well and did another town hall there. But it's amazing that a lot can happen in a month or a week in politics. But in fact, 2 months is quite a bit of time, and indeed, since I left here, quite a bit has happened. But I want to make a disclaimer up front. This is for the benefit of everybody and also, of course, for some folks in Sierra Leone. Let me say at the very beginning that my remarks at this dinner are done in my personal capacity as Kandeh, Kolleh, Yumkella, and not on behalf of the National Grand Coalition. This distinction is important because until we receive our final certificate in a few weeks from now, the NGC cannot organize public events. Let me also say that we have set up a subcommittee to develop guidelines for the full transition of the KKY movement into the National Grand Coalition by October 31st. So I underline for the record, I hope it is recorded, that I'm speaking as Kandeh, Kolleh, Yumkella. I'm not speaking on behalf of the NGC. I chose to talk about governance. I'll talk about that today and tomorrow. I talk about governance for a number of reasons. First of all, in our country today, you take a stand on issues and you take a stand on principle. People accuse you of being overambitious. I hear people saying now that Kandeh Yumkella only wants to be president. I hear people saying that Kandeh Yumkella has moved on from his father's house to build his own house because he just wants to be president. So I needed to remind a few people of who I am and what I am and where I started. I started political activism long, long ago. When I was 8, 1967 or so, gunmen came to my father's house to shoot him. I was kept as a hostage for several hours. In my close family, some people assume that that's the turning point in my life. So from age 8, I had already experienced the horrors of politics. At CKC, when I was senior prefect, I joined the group when we were doing the demonstrations in Botown. So yes, already at age 17, I was already in my first nationwide demonstration as senior prefect of CKC under the aegis of no college, no school. How many people are from that generation? We, the group of 1977. So yes, our generation, as young folks, we already started challenging the establishment, challenging the one-party state, demanding political pluralism, demanding more accountability and democracy in our country. By the time I was in the United States, in fact, let me go first. When I joined university at Yumkella, I was already a Secretary General in the Students' Union. I was already involved in my first demonstrations, already 4 weeks into the semester as a freshman. So by 18, I was already in my first demonstration. By the time I got to Cornell, 1983, 1985, I was also demonstrating against apartheid at Cornell. In fact, by the time I became a professor here as an assistant professor, 1991, with folks like Jimmy Kandeh, Ibrahim Abdallah, Richard During is still in New York, Reverend Samfore, Harry Selenga, Mr. Tijan Savage, we had already formed the Coalition for Social Democratic Change to demand for an end to one-party state in Sierra Leone. So my life has been one of activism, always driving for change, driving and demanding social justice, and in fact, fighting for the rights of others. It is no surprise that in the United States, I actually served as assistant to the Dean for Minority Affairs, my first professional job in this country. So when people try to define me at home, because the perspective there is power and politics and power plays, they don't know that in fact for 30 years and more before I even went back home into politics, I have always been fighting for social justice from very early on, from the age of 17. So that is me. It's always about change, positive change, but more importantly, about good governance. Governance matters. Leadership matters. Whether it is a corporation, it is a university, a school, a nation, the leadership, the way the institutions are governed matters. It matters. So if folks like me vie to go into politics, it is to change the narrative in our country. Because after 56 years, yes, we have achieved a lot. We've even survived a civil war. We've survived Ebola. Now we're trying to survive a major landslide. But governance matters. If the governance is good, prosperity will spread. If the governance is good, there will be happiness. If the governance is bad, we pay for a long time. We pay for a long time. When we did the demonstrations, no college, no school, demanding elections, people did not listen to us. We were teenagers, 17 years old. 17 years old. The late Hindolo Trai and others leading that demonstration. But we, the young kids, joined in. If people had listened then, maybe we would have avoided the civil war. Because then it was about students' rights. It was also only we, the students, who could demand of Shaka Stevens the right for our people to express themselves freely in politics. The demand to end corruption. So let people know back home that if Kandeh Yumkella says he's vying for the presidency, it's not for himself. This is what he has done from age 17. From age 17, it has always been about country first, our people first, our people first. And for some of us coming from the families from which we came, that's the tradition we know. That's how they created our first major political party in that country. Why good governance? When Sierra Leone and some other African nations gained their independence over half a century ago, they were wealthier on a per capita basis than Malaysia, Indonesia, or South Korea. Today, these countries, the latter countries I mentioned, are industrialized nations and ranked high on the latest Human Development Index. But Mama Salon, we are ranked among the bottom 10. Sometimes we are at the bottom of the heap in terms of human development. We are among countries with the highest infant mortality rate. 70% of our people live on less than $2.50 per day. 77% are in extreme multidimensional poverty. We have very, very high, some people claim 60% youth unemployment. And of course, we leave our handicapped, physically challenged citizens to fend for themselves on the streets. Yes, we're still at the bottom of the heap. The developmental states of the newly industrialized countries of East Asia can tell us a lot of things about how to go about governance and transforming economies. Some of those economies in Asia used to be called basket cases in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. But today, most of them, Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, and others, they're highly industrialized. In fact, many people go to those countries now, Thailand and others, for medicals, because it's cheaper there. You get just as good treatment as you would in the first world, but at a lower cost. They manufacture all kinds of products you buy here in the United States, from clothing to Nike shoes to even pharmaceuticals. And yes, in my career, I have visited those factories. Whether in India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and so on, I have walked through those factories. Yes, I did some of that job. And you go there and you know that change is possible. When you go to Cambodia and see, some of you know about the Pol Pot era. Those people lost hundreds of thousands of people. You would never think they will develop, but they're self-sufficient in food. They manufacture clothing and shoes and other products that are bought in the first world. So change can happen. It is that motivation, it is that conviction that I have seen around the world, that great leaders came there and changed the condition of their people in spite of war, in spite of the conflict they had, because of governance and vision and the determination to raise their people up, not just to help themselves and their families. So yes, I have seen possibility. I have seen the possibility. I have seen what 5 years can do in a nation. So I have convinced myself that, if I make the sacrifice and if people give me the privilege to serve them, we can create the same paradise and the same opportunity in Sierra Leone. But as we can say that salon, then go paint you. Then they're so close for you, they don't measure you. The one wearing you hate. It's too ambitious. If you say na sabi whole team, if they talk too much na the radio, if I not talk, it go bad for una. If I not talk true, it go bad for them. Some people have to stand up. At some point, you have to speak out. Euphobia. At that country, they then go slap you. Then go pit by you. Then go destroy you. When you team up firm, you resist, then blame you for waiting and they do back. Yes. Suddenly, now you can't give them all the problem. Then don't they inside the soup. They unbog themselves before you reach there. Then turn around for try to blame you. My brother and sister, if you not team up like man, as they can say now, mountain court, you tie you or good. So God then will paint you. And number one very close by you. But I said no. You cannot define me. You cannot define me. Because I defined myself over 40 years. If you call that arrogant, then maybe you have problems too. I call it standing for what you believe and refusing to settle for the lowest common denominator. So yes, 2 months after I left you in the land of the free and the home of the brave, I went home and I decided to leave my father's house. This past week, on the 5th of September, I announced that I had left the SLPP. All we were demanding, a level playing field, transparency, stick to the rules and the constitution of the party. But then Koswi, then Pittsburgh, then Bonwi Poster, then Laipawi, still nobody not talk. The day where we left, then Pintui now. I am ambitious. Well, if you call that ambition, I'm guilty. Because I'm ambitious for a better Sierra Leone. And we deserve it. Yes. If you are not ambitious, you settle for less. If you are not ambitious, you accept that corruption is a normal way of life. If you are not ambitious, you accept that the lowest level of education we have is okay. Well, it's not okay for me. I refuse to accept that. I refuse to accept that. But they say for Dombia, in Tembuka, they say na musical chairs. They say we all for rotates. When you chap, you go sit down. The next man can chap. I said no to that. That's not why I went home. I went home to change that country, to work with others to help change for the sake of the next generation. And if the football team I want to join is not a good football team, I decided to leave. But I know many of you told me that I should have done it long time ago. But there's a time for everything. With no regrets, I moved on. I moved on now to create a platform that will allow you self-expression too. Self-expression, governance matters.